Well, and there you have it. Welcome back on the AM show. It's time now for the news review. And guess whom the net dragged in? Mapito CBD.
Hi, Benjamin. Good morning. This is the first time we're doing this, right?
Yeah. Very first time.
Yeah.
And you're looking all colorful.
Of course. You know, the sun has been misbehaving. So I decided to take over the sun's role and be a bright and shining star for everyone.
Well, rise and shine. Here we are. Getting the groove on. It's good to have you.
It's good to be here, Benjamin.
Anyway, so we dig into the papers, but we'll be joined shortly by Suleimana Brahima, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. In fact, he has joined the conversation. Mr. Brahima, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben. Our very beautiful, shining lady. Great to connect with all of you this morning.
Okay, so the sound is a little low. I don't know what we can do about that. Maybe if you could increase the volume a bit as far as your connection is concerned.
It's better as we go along.
Right.
Sure, we hope so.
Mapito CBD is officially representing the sun in the studio, so that's why. Yes. Officially, she just made mention of it.
That's right. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for your time. Now let's dig into the papers, yeah?
You realize I'm on a tangent of mischief.
So I'm not going to entertain it. Thank you very much.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's start with the papers you have.
All right, let's start with Daily Guide. And the big story, the top story there is Galamsey Queen holds 6 videos of big men. And that's on page 3. We'll also go to page 2 where it says AG plans to scrap jury trials. And the last one is businessman vows to beat Mahama. But page 3, the big story is very interesting. Galamsey Queen holds 6 videos of big men. Now, seasoned journalist Abdul Malik Kwekubaku Jr. has revealed that Aisha Huang, the Chinese Galamsey Queen, who was arrested recently, has a series of recorded 6 videos involving big men, which she uses to blackmail them. According to the editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper, the notorious Chinese Galamsey has recordings of 6 acts captured on camera as well as audio files with their private discussions of certain Ghanaians in positions of authority. Benjamin, your thoughts on this?
This is not the first time I'm hearing of this bit. If you recall, it had been in the news before. There had been rumors, word on the streets, the grapevine was that, yes, there was indeed something of this nature. But for it to resurface and for the likes of Abdul Malik Kwekubaku to give credence to it and state it categorically like this, it must mean that, like that proverbial blind man, he has his foot on something, the stone in this instance. But if that turns out to be the case, then we'd be asking ourselves, are these people sacrificing national interest for their personal interest? And just how much can she do to you? Yes, if she has it on you. So this axe is going to be hanging, across your neck throughout your life.
For the rest of your life, yeah.
Really. But let's find out what Mr. Brahima thinks. Suleimana, what's your take on this?
Well, Ben, I would say that for now it's an allegation by Kwekubaku.
But you have heard it before, right? You have heard it in the past, because I have in the past too.
Well, yes, I've heard it before, but it's not been proven yet. So we will treat it as an allegation still. One may want to say, well, could it be the reason why the first time she was arrested, she was treated the way she was treated? We don't know yet. She's been arrested again under very bizarre circumstances that truly and honestly embarrasses our nation. And we can only look forward to the law taking its course, because, we've always been told that no one is above the law. And I don't think that referred to only Ghanaians. I believe it referred to people who conduct themselves in ways that are contrary to the provisions of the law within the jurisdiction of Ghana. And here we have a lady who was said to have been deported. We are told now she came in illegally, which is an offense. She was engaged in activities without permit, which is an offense. And we can only look forward to prosecution. The last time we read, the AG had instructed that the docket be brought to his office. And the belief is that it is to ensure effective, timely prosecution. So that's what we're looking forward to. Otherwise, she's a lady of age. It's unusual if she happened to have had an affair with any official, whether in government or out of government. And however that is treated is really up to them. For us, it's about the law taking its course.
Yeah.
Just a quick follow-up. You recall back then, there was similar rhetoric from the Attorney General's department back then until the interventions and Osafo Mafo's infamous comment and all of that. But something else that I found interesting, which has been making the rounds on social media. We've been told, Mapito and Sule, that she came in through unapproved routes. Well, some information out there suggests that she may not actually have come in the country through unapproved routes like the Immigration Service has been telling us. That's something we're keeping our radar on. But how bad would it be already for her to be back in the country after, being sent out and to be engaging in illegal mining? And if it turns out that she did in fact come through approved routes, what would that mean?
Well, whichever way, whether she came through an approved route or not, is a very serious embarrassment on our nation. And it only tells the extent to which our borders are quite porous, our immigration service and border control systems are not working, or at least are not working when it comes to those who have power and those who have connections. So for me, of course, the president at some point said that what Mr. Osafo Mafo said the action that was taken on hindsight was not the right thing to have been done. Fortunately or unfortunately, we have the lady back this time around, not just conducting the activities of illegal mining, but even the first offense of getting into our country without, the going through the appropriate procedures. So I believe all these things would come out during prosecution because the charge sheet should have, reasons why she's being prosecuted. And I believe at that point we would get to know, at least as far as the state is concerned, what the facts are. I don't want us to really speculate on what people say, whether she got in through approved or unapproved routes, whether she was engaged in galamsey or not. And all those things, I believe, would come out during prosecution.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brahma. Let's go to page 6.
Do you recall, though, I just wanted to come in, do you recall when Mr. President put his presidency on the line when it comes to fighting illegal mining?
Yes, I do. And
I'll leave it there.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's go to page 6 because another Chinese woman steals shares of Big Stone mining firm, and more details are emerging about how a Chinese woman conspired with her friend to allegedly steal 50% shares in the Big Stone Mining Company Limited in Bogoso in the Western region. What's happening with the Chinese and, illegal mining? Is it that our laws are not working, Mr. Brahma? What is really, really happening?
Well, what is happening is that we have a government in which the person who was appointed senior minister during the first term did tell us that, look, China, we depend so much on China. At that time, they were expecting some, at least $1 billion from China. And to that extent, perhaps based on what he was saying, it was as if to suggest that because of that dependence, it's okay for Chinese nationals to do anything in our country and to disregard our laws. And that is why when Aisha Huang was first arrested, despite all the catastrophic illegal activities in mining that she had conducted, polluting our water bodies, destroying our lands, destroying our forests, she had to be made to go scot-free. It is not surprising because a recent investigations by the Fourth Estate pointed to the fact that, look, there are only 2 or so Chinese in our prisons. And we do know that hundreds of Chinese have been arrested alongside Ghanaians in these activities of illegal mining. And we have had a number of Ghanaians, a number of Nigerians, Ivorians, Ghanaian nationals in our prisons for illegal mining. So you ask yourself, how come when Chinese are arrested, they are made to go home? And when our own people are arrested for the same offense, they are jailed. It is simply because we have a government that sees itself as inferior, that sees itself as, so dependent on another country, such that its nationals can conduct themselves in whatever ways in this country and go scot-free. The same person is today the presidential advisor, to the president. And so if you have the person who feels that, look, Chinese can do anything in our country and go scot-free,
Yeah.
At that time as senior minister, and today as an advisor to the president, of course, the Chinese will feel emboldened because they still have at least the person who believes that given the diplomatic relations between their country and Ghana, they can do whatever they like in our country. And it tells us, how inferior we see ourselves as Africans.
Yeah.
And it also tells us the level of governance we are having, the bad governance we are having. The government that is looking on when our future is completely being destroyed. And all we hear is a lot about rhetorics. And then, of course, attacking our own citizens when they breach the law, which is right, but leaving other nationals to go scot-free.
All right, let me go to my last story on the Daily Guide, and that, Benjamin, I'm entertainment biased. and I love entertainment because now Sarkodie says you can't criticize us. The rapper has called out Ghanaian radio presenters and pundits who criticized him and his colleagues for their inability to go international. According to him, those presenters don't have the moral right to do so if they haven't made any big career internationally.
I think Sarkodie is way out of line. I followed the conversation. I think it was George Quay with his team, Senior Ken and others who dilated on the matter. I think there are some. He was even, there was even talk about what makes you a pundit if you've not maybe achieved this or that. There are some people who are simply focused on expertise in the system.
Yeah.
And they are not really in the system in terms of any deliverables, but theirs is expertise. But look, even Akon, he was at a point signed on to Convict Music, which is
I know.
Akon's brand. Why didn't he blow up? Shouts to Sarkodie for everything he's achieved, back-to-back 8 studio album jams in the offing. But when it comes to that international clout, what he could have done, especially with whether Pidgin or the English language, he simply didn't get that right. That is why when we're talking about real lyricists on the continent, you would see the BBC going for M. Diggity, Manifest, and others, rather than a Sarkodie. So it's like a Jay-Z, Nas situation. Sarkodie being like Jay-Z, but when it comes to the real spitting, you would look at
Nas.
Nas. So that's the kind of situation. But I really don't get why he was saying that because, look, you've done your bit. Akon himself criticized Sarkodie on that recently. He was saying that he was that star that never was because he simply didn't fit the international mold. He decided to be a local champion, so to speak.
Okay,
it is what it is.
Well, I saw, I think it's Michael Ortiz's tweet, and basically what Sarkodie said, if it be easy, do it. You get it?
Well.
Yeah. Well,
if it's easy, go ahead and do it.
Go ahead and do it.
Show us.
So that's to our presenters. And I think it's a call to our presenters to grow. It doesn't have to be like for the BBC or whatever, but to grow like locally, grow within your area or whatever expertise you have. Don't just stay on radio for 20 years and you've been the first, like Benjamin, 5 years ago is still the Benjamin of now.
Exactly.
So basically, just grow. Benjamin, what else do you have there?
Well, I have some other stories. The Daily Graphic, let's get into that. Ghana's leadership in rule of law exemplary. That's according to the UK Attorney General. And speaking of the UK, interesting times because Kwesi Kwarteng is now the Chancellor of the Exchequer, basically like Finance Minister in the UK.
Yeah.
Of Ghanaian parentage.
Yes, I saw that last
But spoiler alert, it does not mean that, Ghana is going to... I remember when Barack Obama became president, some Kenyans were like, oh, now the continent is Masa.
No.
That's not going to happen.
It doesn't work like that.
In fact, I think in his inaugural speech or something, he made mention of something like that, or there was a post on social media. So those are some good thoughts, at least, for Ghana. NHIS must cover prostate cancer treatment. That's according to a urologist. And then make Ghana card acquisition process faster, Electoral Commission to NIA. Let's quickly get into these stories. Let's turn to page 16 first. And there's, let's quickly get there, page 16. Where are you? When you're looking for the pages. Here we are. So Ghana's leadership in rule of law exemplary, and Ghana's leadership in the rule of law on the African continent has been acknowledged by the newly appointed Attorney General of the United Kingdom, Michael Ellis. Speaking at a meeting with Ghana's Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Godfrey Adame, in his office at the House of Commons in London, UK last Thursday, Mr. Ellis also praised Ghana for the strength of its justice system. It's interesting sometimes. It's reminiscent of when I interacted with Kristalina Georgieva, IMF boss. Yes, there is the political correctness, and we cannot say that Ghana is not one of the bastions of democracy and rule of law on the continent. But again, we've also had so many infractions in this country, and we cannot run away from them. I don't have to put up a list. We can go on and on. But at least it is good that we're getting the commendations. But this one, recently there was a bit of an uproar on social media when, I think it was on Insura or Love FM, when a urologist, said that, prostate cancer is that common, and the more you have intercourse and, then it means that if you have it, I think, about 4 times a week or twice a week, then less chance. And people took him on, and other urologists had different ideas. But this one has to do with prostate cancer being covered by the NHIS. And an appeal has been made to the government to include prostate cancer in the list of diseases covered under the NHIS. This is because many men are suffering from prostate cancer, but the cost of treating the disease is beyond the means of the average Ghanaian. And not just prostate cancer, most of the other cancers, cervical, whatever, the cost is huge. Nowadays, people of, I don't know whether to call it brown or black descent, but even African Americans are more prone to prostate cancer than other groupings, racial groupings. And it tends to be same for Africans.
And do we know why?
Well, some of these things don't have, I don't know, there's no hardcore evidence. It's just, there are others too from other races, like the Caucasians, who are more prone to other things.
Certain things,
So I think it's just the genes and the genes you inherit and all of that. But let me bring in this one so that Suleimana can react to the prostate cancer and this bit. Make Ghana card acquisition process faster, Electoral Commission to NIA. And the EC has called on the National Identification Authority to accelerate the pace of the printing of Ghana cards to make it easy for people to acquire their cards, as they will soon be the only form of ID for voter registration. This was mentioned, I think, in passing by the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, at a point. Then there was talk about it, and now it looks like it's becoming real. Suleimana, your quick thoughts on this. Maybe you can tie this one into the SIM card re-registration and how people are getting their lines blocked and all of that because they don't have the Ghana card and can't re-register.
Well, it's really a big development globally. I have been reading recent research by digital experts from the New York University, and it is titled "Digitalizing Our Way to Hell." And it talks about the various harms and, very dire consequences for human rights and other issues of life in this whole effort of digitalization around the world, which is being backed and pushed by the World Bank and other actors. Yes, we are told there are the good sides. It appears there are, but so far studies have not proven that these potential good effects are things that will really happen with the digitalization process. What it points out, this study points out, is the very serious issue of exclusion, particularly among the vulnerable and the poor. And everywhere this digitalization process has taken place, that has been a major concern. In fact, it is believed that all these digital processes around the world are being inspired by what has happened in India in they call it the Andhar project, in places like Estonia and in Peru. In all these places, it has been established that when this process is conducted the way we are conducting it in Ghana, you end up excluding a significant number of people who unfortunately turn out to be the marginalized. And that is exactly what we are witnessing here in Ghana. The people who have not been able to so far register their SIM cards, for which reason they've been disconnected partially through the autocratic decisions of the Minister for Communications, are predominantly the poor. And guess what? It's often, the usual thing, which is predominantly women. And these people are being excluded through no fault of theirs. Look, you have made it a requirement, mandatorily, to be able to register your SIM card, you must have had a Ghana card. If somebody doesn't have a Ghana card, how do they register? And then you say, look, because you haven't registered, I'm disconnecting you. That doesn't, it doesn't absolutely make sense. And then there are the whole human rights issues that so far nobody is talking about it because the government has control, has the upper hand. If you don't register, you get disconnected. Nobody is talking about the privacy issues. Nobody is talking about the issues of surveillance. And elsewhere, it's been done and we cannot rule it out. In Nigeria, when the process started earlier than we have started through the national identification numbers, when it was rolled out, about 73 million people got disconnected. And I don't want to believe that these were people who were so recalcitrant that they didn't want to enroll themselves into the system. It is just because these are vulnerable people, these are people who may not have been able to get themselves registered with the primary document, and they call it the foundational ID.
Yeah.
We need to have a big conversation about this whole thing they are calling identification for development, which I said is being pushed by the World Bank and in complete disregard for the human rights consequences and the interest of the marginalized and the poor.
Are you then, just quickly, Suleiman, are you then implicating the World Bank, other Bretton Woods institutions who are supportive of these actions? Because you know the benefits as well of having a unitary system. So yesterday, for example, I had a chat with a friend who is Ghanaian, but he has his permanent residency in Canada, and very soon he'll get a Canadian passport. And he was telling me in Canada, look, there are 3 different source documents, cards, that I can use to prove that I am a permanent resident or I have the rights to do this. I can access everything in Canada. I don't need one card. But here we want to make it one card. Now the EC is also saying, get ready because this is going to be the only documentation. Are we getting it wrong?
Exactly. We talk about what is called civil registration vital statistics, which in Ghana used to exist. So people had passports, people have birth certificates, and the other civil rights, civil registration documents. In Ghana today, we are making complete nonsense of these documents. In fact, I don't know here in Ghana what document people can now use to prove their citizenship, because ordinarily it's supposed to be the birth certificate.
Yeah.
But when we're going for Ghana cards, we are told, no, your birth certificate cannot guarantee that you are a Ghanaian, and therefore you couldn't have used that. When we're doing the voter registration, people who had previous voter registration cards, they said no. Even your passport, they said no, your passport cannot serve as a guarantee of your citizenship. And that for me is completely weird. I don't know where else in the world that this system is being implemented. And I don't know how confident our authorities are in being able to offer absolute protection and, ensuring the security of the data that is being collected, to the extent that now everybody has to have a Ghana card, which would be the primary document for everything. People would say, oh, Estonia has done it. But Estonia started way back, and now they have e-identity. It's not just the card. They have e-identity. So even if you don't have the card, there's a way to go through to establish your identity and to establish your citizenship. I think that we are needlessly rushing our process. Of course, I can understand, because look, when it is done, there are political, ramifications for it. The government of the day now has access to everybody's data, people who are of age, people who can vote. They don't need to come to you to ask you, Ben, where are you from Ghana? They don't need to ask you your permission to be able to triangulate your data with other people to establish that, oh, okay, Ben's family tend to vote for CPP. Oh, okay, Ben's father is the CPP, this or that or that.
Yeah.
Right.
And so they can use it for all manner of things. And I can understand why the government is rushing. With a SIM card registration, they can decide to know, where are you calling from? Who are you calling? At what time? What transaction are you making online? Who are you sending mobile money to? What websites you are visiting? And these are the big issues that we are not talking about here in Ghana. The government is just pushing it down on our throats without any sort of engagement, without any sort of citizens' participation in even the conversations, because we have the power. If you don't register,
Right.
we disconnect. This is completely digital autocracy and digital dictatorship that we need to really, we need to fight. Otherwise, in the near future, our data is going to be used in ways that will become irredeemable. Your privacy, everything would have been taken away, and you cannot redeem it.
Sule, interesting point. So, Mapito, he calls it digital autocracy, digital dictatorship. And that's something else we must take a keen look at, even in terms of the rule of law that we are being lauded for. But we have other stories.
Other stories, let's go to the Ghanaian Times, where lecturer, 3 students die in road crash and several others sustained injuries in the eastern region. And now the accident, which led to several others sustaining life-threatening injuries, occurred last Friday. According to reports, some of them were rushed to the Eastern Regional Hospital. But Ben, preliminary investigations into the accident revealed that the 2 drivers were trying to swerve potholes, resulting in the head-on collision.
Ooh.
Right? So they were on their way to Mount Afajato in the Volta region. So I also want to tie this story to a story on page 7 about making facilities attractive to meet demands of the patrons. That's the Ghana Tourism Authority has urged operators of tourist sites. So page 3, lecturer, 3 students died in road crash. They were going to Mount Afajato, which is one of our tourist destinations. And the 2 drivers were trying to swerve potholes, resulting in the head-on collision. I mean, we've been talking about this.
I'm supposing this was from opposite directions.
Yeah.
At the same area. They were trying to swerve. And, sometimes you miscalculate because you think, oh, this person is coming this way. Let me veer in.
He'll wait for me. He can see.
Or he'll wait for me.
I mean, how long do we have to talk about the state of our roads?
Yeah.
What's the next thing? I mean, we're so eager in doing other things, because this was a needless death, really. Like, these were needless deaths.
You remember, since you're so much into entertainment, Ebony Rains.
Exactly.
It's, at least, it wasn't a pothole or anything, but it was a pile of sand also on a stretch of the road, which shouldn't have been there. In trying to swerve it,
unfortunately,
this was the result.
She made her
Young life gone.
Mr. Brahma, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, how long do we need to keep on talking about the state of our roads? How do we avoid these needless deaths? What's the next step after talking so much about it? I mean, the government did say it was the year of roads. I don't know how that ended up.
This is our 3rd year of roads, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So, year of roads, what's happening, Mr. Brahma?
Well, I think we can't say it enough in terms of the rhetorics of this government. I think that if fine speeches and promises were to be one of the indicators of good governance, I'm sure President Akufo-Addo's government would have been the best in the 4th Republic. We've had, just so many things, and they all turn out not to be what we are told they would be. This is really a sad development, but I need to also emphasize the point that sometimes it's also just about being careful on the roads. And I say so because I believe a lot of our accidents are caused by drivers not adhering to the road regulations and what needs to be observed when people are driving. And I say this because if you look at the road accidents and the toll, the death toll on our roads, you would realize that a lot do happen on the roads that are good. Like, say, Accra Cape Coast Road. Several times you hear about accidents on Accra Cape Coast, Accra Takoradi, or on the Accra Kumasi Road. And yes, there are spots that you would say are not too good, but to a large extent, a greater part of that road is not in bad condition. Or Kumasi Kintampo. So a lot of
in fact, to corroborate what you're saying, some of the best roads actually also have some of the worst accident statistics, because it appears that the roads are very good and so people speed on them. So I agree with you to an extent.
Exactly. So you often would not hear about these accidents happening on our feeder roads, which are really terrible, and drivers have to navigate. You have to almost dance, on the road as you move. So I think it's more about driver indiscipline, tiredness on the part of drivers, drivers sleeping whilst they are driving, and those kinds of things do cause a lot of our accidents. It is not to take away the fact that the road network to our tourist sites are quite terrible. The last and first time I visited Kakum National Park, for example, the road was really, really terrible. And I asked myself, what are we doing? If we really want people to patronize our tourist sites, one of the things to fix would be the roads. So it's a major issue in terms of the state of our roads. But it's also important to highlight the fact that our drivers need to also be very cautious
Right.
and very disciplined when they are applying our roads.
Okay, doke. Let me bring in two newspapers together because of the matters on the economy. But I'll just start with this. Central East Command records 2,972 land cases in 8 months. That's according to the police. That's in the Finder newspaper. And then decision to block SIM cards unlawful, unacceptable. That's according to the NDC. But let's focus on the economy. Ghana's return to IMF is necessary to fix debilitating economic situation. Dr. Gideon Boako, who was an economic advisor and spokesperson for the vice president, says so. Then economic stabilization high on government's agenda. That's according to Kojo Ponkroma, Minister for Information. But guess what? Two stories in the Economy Times that excite me. Banks excited over CD's free fall. You know why? According to the story, while publicly they are saying we need stability, you know, behind the scenes, they are excited about it because this means that in CD terms, their own assets have increased in value. And so they're actually excited about it, but they are not saying it. That's what Economy Times says. And the government adds 7.14 billion Ghana cedis to its debt. That was through the sale of treasury bills in August 2022. Quick reflections on that. I just want to find out, are you as hopeful as the information minister when he says economic stabilization is high on government's agenda? You know what? The CD is falling again.
Yeah.
I mean, it rose marginally against the dollar, and now it's doing a dance that nobody wants again. Suleimana, briefly on that, we are limited with time, so Mapito can come through with some final stories, please.
Well, in terms of economic stabilization being high on the agenda of government, I mean, there couldn't have been any other thing. Where our economy is, we are in dire crisis, and therefore the government has no choice but to prioritize the stabilization of the economy. And so for me, that is just about stating the obvious. It's unfortunate to see the city go down again, but I'm not surprised in terms of the point that is being made that the banks perhaps are elated because the stated capital that got a lot of banks into trouble is stated in cedis. And so if, for example, it's supposed to be 400 million cedis, and that used to be something close to, let's say, about 10 million or so dollars. And today, you can meet that same threshold with basically about far fewer dollars. That certainly is something that, in terms of calculating where they stand in the industry, perhaps will make them a little happy. But I don't think that it solves our problems. Even if the city becomes, $1 to 20 cedis, it obviously makes us worse. Even if you are earning in dollars, it makes us worse because at the end of the day, you will still have to spend in cedis and you will feel the impact. I think that government has to do far more. The debt toll on the country is so significant. And for me, it is about us and the future generations who would have to struggle to see how they pay this.
Right.
What it means is the future of this country is being made worse by the day.
Yeah.
And this cannot be a sign of good leadership or a sign of good governance. Whilst all these are happening, I am not seeing anything to show that the government is really taking the hard steps to ensure that at least on government expenditure, things are being cut. We still have the same number of ministers. We still not have the same conditions for ministers. And I don't know, maybe we are complaining, but they are seeing the situation in a different way.
Mr. Brahma, before we wrap up, one story I would like your thoughts on, Republic from the Republic Press, and there won't be guarantee system anymore for voter registration, and that's according to the EC. Your thoughts on that?
Well, increasingly we are seeing the attitude of dictatorship and autocracy in a democracy being manifest in various ways and through various institutions. The Ministry of Communication, that is what is happening. This is what I say must be done, and I want it done. The EC is doing its own thing. Since 1992, we've had this guarantor system as a way of getting people onto the register. We are the same Ghanaians. What has changed? The same people. So what has been implemented that would take away the need for people to be guaranteed? If during the voter registration period I've lost my ID, my Ghana card, and remember that the Ghana card, you are issued just one single piece, and that is what you are supposed to use for your banking transaction, for your Momo transaction, for literally everything.
Right.
So that the possibility of losing your Ghana card, and it's not even the size of a passport that you say, okay, it's quite a bit heavy. This is just a card, and the possibility of losing your card. Remember, if you were to go to the banks those days, you would see people's voter ID cards, placed, on the counters. People who have visited the banks and have either forgotten or left their cards there. It is the same thing that is going to happen with a Ghana card, no matter how careful people would be. So the possibility that at a particular point, a number of people will not have Ghana cards is real. So if I misplace my Ghana card and the EC is doing registration and I have to re-register for whatever reasons, then what happens? And I cannot use maybe a day or two to get my Ghana card. What happens? Now, what I also know is that last week, a non-Ghanaian visited a Ghana card registration center. I think it's something around 1,200 Ghana cedis or so. And within that same day, got his Ghana card. The question I'm asking is, why is the National NIA unable to give to Ghanaians instantly and within the same day their cards? Because I know people who have struggled, people who visiting the office now and then, and are still struggling to have their Ghana card. And here was somebody who went to a Ghana card registration center and got the card.
So interesting.
On that note, is it not like a supply and demand type of thing? Because there are more Ghanaians in the country
than the foreigners who may be trying to get the Ghana card.
So let's say we have like 20 Ghanaians and like 5 foreigners. It's easier to give the 5 foreigners their cards than to give the 20 Ghanaians their cards.
Well, that's also a point. But
it was a different type of card, but it's the same type of card. The only difference is the information. If you go a foreigner, your biometrics will be captured, everything, and it's printed on the same card. Whatever the technicalities are the same. And for me, is it a question of how much people pay? Is it because the foreigners are supposed to pay more and therefore they are privileged in terms of how and when they can get their cards?
So, Sule, that is a very interesting point you make, curious point, but we'll have to leave it here. Maybe some other time we'll have enough time to discuss that. Sports is up next, and of course, Aduana shocked Hearts by, beating them, I think by 1-0, pipping them. So Hearts evoke, never say die, but they've already started the season looking very shaky in their very first match. We'll bring you more of that in sports. Do stay.